I have a friend who works in a shoe store. He's worked there for almost 10 years. Funny thing is when he first started, he thought he would only work there for about 6 months. A lot of big bookstores are closing down for obvious reasons. A lot of general retail stores are closing down, but bookstores even more so, because many people predict that in 10 or 20 years there won't even be books anymore. But there's one bookstore near my house that is always crowded. There's always people there. It's like going back in time, back to the mid-90s when they first started opening up these big, huge bookstores. It's kind of nice to go there to see all the people looking at all the books. It feels good to buy things, since buying is based on a human instinct. It feels good to eat things because we need food to stay alive. It feels good to have sex, since we need to have sex to keep our species going. But you can also be addicted to buying things. You can also become addicted to eating. You can also become addicted to having sex. Funny thing about sex addicts is they tend to have a kind of sixth sense when it comes to sensing other people with sex addictions. It's like they can walk into a room, gaze around at the people, and within moments find all of the sex addicts. And all they need to do is kind of glance in the direction of the sex addicts and give them a kind of secret sex addict signal, and they both go and have sex. It seems to be very easy for sex addicts to find sexual partners everywhere. It seems that for them, everywhere they go, they can find sexual partners. I went into this really strange jewelry store recently. I walked in and there was an old man standing there, and he was looking at me when I walked in as if he expected me. I looked around at all the pieces of jewelry and I didn't see any prices. So I asked him what I was supposed to do, and he said, "Close your eyes and see if you can sense which piece of jewelry is calling to you." So I closed my eyes and I imagined which piece of jewelry was calling to me. And when I opened my eyes, I was looking directly at this very thin gold chain with a very thin pendant, or what looked like a pendant. But when I looked closely, it looked like it was kind of like an ancient rune, but I didn't really know what it was. And so I asked the old man what the deal was with this necklace, and he said, "When you put on this necklace, people will do whatever you want. People will obey whatever you suggest. People will agree with whatever your ideas are. When you wear this, the more you talk to people, the more they will become addicted to obeying you, the more they will be addicted to following your orders. When you look at somebody, they will beg for you to tell them what to do. People will beg you to tell them to do something. They will beg to serve you. They will beg to obey you. They will beg to do whatever you want them to do." And I asked him, "How much does this cost?" thinking he was kind of putting me on. And he smiled and said, "It depends on how you use this. If you use this to help other people, this will be free. But if you use this to help yourself at the expense of other people, the cost will be dear. But you won't figure out what the cost is until it's too late." And so I decided I didn't want to take the risk, and I left. Even drug addiction has a way of kind of short-circuiting our natural neural pathways. A lot of drugs mimic the natural adrenaline rush we get when we achieve something difficult, when we get over a kind of a psychological hump and we feel a certain amount of relief and gratification that we finished. That's the kind of thing that drugs mimic. That's why it's so easy to get addicted to drugs, because we get the benefit without the costs, at least in the short term. But the funny thing about drugs is that all drugs, they only work if we have a naturally occurring receptacle for the chemical structure of the drug, which means there's some kind of a natural match between our brains and the way these drugs are grown in the wild. One of the reasons I like bookstores so much is because you're surrounded by so much information. It's like every single book in the place, of which there are hundreds or maybe thousands, every single book is filled with potentially life life-changing information, and you're surrounded by so much potential, and it feels good to be surrounded by so much potential. Not only that, but it feels good to be surrounded by other people that also enjoy being surrounded by so much potential. So you have the potential in the books that are surrounding you. You have the potential in the other people's brains that are also surrounding you. It's a very, very good feeling. And for this reason, I don't think big bookstores will ever go out of business. I think there'll always be some kind of demand for buildings with books. It doesn't even matter if they're not real books, if they're electronic books, so long as you're around some kind of a situation where you're surrounded by potential and you're surrounded by people that also notice this potential, that will be a very, very good feeling. So I think there'll always be a demand for this kind of thing. I guess my friend is a natural at selling shoes. He started studying reflexology, which says that the soles of our feet are connected to all of our organs. And he knows all about reflexology, and he realizes the secret that if you're wearing comfortable shoes, they can make your whole mind-body system much more efficient. But if you're wearing uncomfortable shoes, it can make everything feel terrible. And so he spent the last 10 years developing this very, very loyal fan base of shoe customers that know to see him when they need to buy new shoes.